Hello students, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn about human digestive system. What do you mean by digestive system? Digestive system is a group of organs that work together to digest and absorb nutrients from the food we eat. Since a group of organs are involved in this process, we call it as a complicated process. And the human digestion, it comes under heterotrophic nutrition because the humans or the higher organisms, they cannot prepare their own food, so we depend on other organisms for food, so we come under this heterotrophic nutrition. Knowing how our digestive system works may help us to keep it healthy. So let us learn in deep about this digestive system. So this picture shows the importance of digestion which takes place in our body. Why is digestion important? It is important for our energy production, growth and repair of muscles, tissues and cells, and nutrient absorption for our bodily functions and systematic health, to support digestion in means of immune system and mental health, and waste removal to eliminate the waste from the body. Now let us look into the parts of digestive system. So the digestive system, it starts from mouth and it ends in anus. So starting from the mouth, we have teeth, tongue and salivary glands, which is responsible for our saliva production. And then below that we can see pharynx and epiglottis. So this epiglottis prevents the passage of food from mouth to the lungs. So it helps to push the food to the stomach. And it enters stomach through a long tube called esophagus. And in the stomach, at the side, left side, we can see liver, gallbladder and pancreas. And coming extension of the stomach, below we can see small intestine and the small intestine, and next we can see the large intestine, and from the large intestine it enters into the rectum and anus. Through anus the waste will be removed. Do you understand about the parts of our digestive system? Since many organs are involved, we call it as the digestive system. We have stomach, liver, and starting from the mouth. So many parts of our body helps in digestion. Now, from buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, anus, we call it as an alimentary canal. And the liver, gallbladder and pancreas, we call it as the accessory structures for digestive system. That means it supports digestion. Now, how does my digestive system work? Now, let us learn how our digestive system works. When we eat, how does it is digested and how the nutrients are absorbed from our food. So, beginning is the mouth. So, when we see a food, we get tempted. Am I right? So, as soon as we see the food, our saliva in the mouth will be there. So, it helps in the digestion. So, only it is secreted from the salivary glands. So, beginning of digestion, the food grinding and mixing, everything takes place in the mouth. That is the fecal method, chewing. Okay. And then once the food is completely mixed with our saliva and it is grounded into a substance that we call as bolus. So, it enters into the stomach through the esophagus. So, the esophagus conducts the food to the stomach. And once this reaches the stomach, here it stores and breaks down food with acid and enzymes. That is, chemical reaction takes place in the stomach. And once it has happened, mixed with enzymes and acids, and again it enters into the small intestine. So, in the small intestine only, the nutrients absorption takes place from the partially digested food. And then it enters into the large intestine. There it absorbs water and form a complete waste there. In between this small intestine and large intestine, the liver produces what? Bile to break down the fats. And the gallbladder, it stores and releases bile for fat digestion. And pancreas, it secretes enzymes to digest carbohydrates, proteins and fats. At last, when it reaches the rectum, it stores the feces before our elimination, and the anus, the final opening of the digestive system for the waste removal. Hope you understood. So from the mouth through the esophagus, it enters into stomach, and the accessory parts, that is liver, gallbladder and pancreas, it helps in the secretion of bile juices for the digestion of mainly for fats. And then it enters into the small intestine where absorption takes place, and again in the large intestine water content is removed and it is made into a feces, and it waits in the rectum region, and after it gets eliminated through the anus. This picture also shows the digestion. So the first one, as I already told, chewing and salivation that takes place in the mouth region, and then swallowing, that is through esophagus the food enters into the stomach. In stomach the digestion takes place with the help of acids and enzymes, and then from there it moves to the small intestine where the absorption takes place, and defecation that takes place in the large intestine. Now, how does our food move through the gastrointestinal tract, that is alimentary tract? How? The food moves through our gastrointestinal tract by a process called a peristalsis, because the food is chewed in the mouth with the help of the saliva. We are chewing it, and from the mouth is entering into the stomach through the esophagus. How it is moving? So the large hollow organs of our gastrointestinal tract contain a layer of muscles that enables their walls to move. So the movement pushes food and liquid through our tract and mixes the content with each organ. So the muscle behind the food, it contracts and squeezes the food forward, while the muscle in the front of the food relaxes and allow the food to move. So this movement only we call it as an peristalsis movement. This picture clearly shows the peristaltic movement of the food. So once the food which we eat is chewed in the mouth along with the saliva, we call it as an bolus. Okay, so once it is chewed in the mouth, when we swallow it, it moves through the esophagus with the help of the movement what I called peristaltic movement with the help of the muscles. Okay, and then it reaches the stomach. Now, how does our food is broken down into smaller particles and how our body is using it? Most of the food we eat contain carbohydrates, lipids, that means fats, and proteins. So in the mouth, already we know there is salivary glands. So it produces an enzyme called salivary amylase. It helps in the digestion of carbohydrates, that is the polysaccharides or disaccharides. What we eat will be in a polysaccharide form, starch. So it is digested in the mouth, and then it enters into the stomach. In stomach we have hydrochloric acid and pepsin enzyme. So it helps in the digestion of proteins in the food which we eat. So proteins, mostly the sources are dal, beans, everything. Also the meat. And then after that food enters into the duodenum, that is the where we can get the enzymes from the pancreas and the liver. So here it is secreting the pancreatic amylase. Again it helps in the digestion of the disaccharides. The polysaccharides is converted into disaccharides, and again in this region disaccharide will be digested. And the main important thing is the fat is digested here, that is the fatty acids. It is converted into the mono units, that is fatty acids and monoglycerides with the help of the enzymes pancreas. And also here trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, these are the enzymes secreted here. It helps in the digestion of peptides. Proteins means it is a polypeptide, and once it is digested it becomes peptides, that mono units. And again everything enters into the small intestine where the absorption takes place. So here also the disaccharides is converted into monosaccharides. Already here it is converted in the pancreatic juice, and then it is absorbed in the small intestine in the form of monosaccharides, that is glucose. Okay, according to the food we eat. And then the lipids, it will be converted into fatty acids and monoglycerides, and the proteins will be converted into amino acids with the help of the enzyme peptidase. So these are the simpler unit of the carbohydrates, lipids and proteins. So our body absorbs the nutrients in the form of a simpler units, not in a complex form. So the complex thing, that is carbohydrates, lipids and proteins, the complex things are converted into the smaller units. So carbohydrate will be converted into monosaccharides, lipids will be converted into fatty acids and monoglycerides, and proteins will be converted into amino acids, and then our body is absorbing these nutrients. Okay, so how the absorption takes place in the small intestine. So the small intestine, it helps in the absorption of nutrients that we already know. So how it is performing that function? Because these small intestine, they have the special cells which helps in the absorption of nutrients. So it absorbs the nutrients and it transfer it to the blood. So the blood carries simple sugars, amino acids, glycerol, and some vitamins and salts to the liver. So these are stored in the organ called liver. From there we will get the energy. So the liver stores, processes, and delivers nutrients to the rest of our body when needed. And the lymph system also, we have the white blood cells and the fluid called lymph throughout our body to fight infection, also absorbs fatty acids and vitamins. Our body uses sugar, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerol to build substances you need for energy, growth, and cell repair. Okay. Now we will see about the special cells. As I already mentioned that the small intestine will have some special cells. So what is these cells? We call it as villi. So you can see in this form of a columnar structure, like this pillar-like structure called villi. So it helps in the absorption of nutrients. It is in the form of a pillar-like structure. No, you can see. So only it gives more area for the absorptions. And once it is absorbed, it gets mixed with the blood. Now when everything, the nutrients are absorbed from the food and it enters into the larger intestine. In large intestine, what happens? The water content is removed. See, you can see in this picture, water electrolytes, they are removed, and then it becomes the feces that we call as haustrum. So how it is moving in the large intestine? So it is known as the haustral contractions. As like the bolus movement, we saw the muscles, it squeezes and pushes the food bolus in the front. Likewise, here also the muscles, the smooth muscles, it contracts and squeezes and pushes the feces forward, and it comes down in the rectum region, and then it is through anus, it comes out from our body. Now, how this digestion process is controlled? Because there are many enzymes, acids are involved in this digestion process. So, everything should work in a proper manner. So, one thing should not overcome the other thing. So, everything will be collapsed. So, how it is controlled? How our digestive system is taking place in a correct way? So, it happens with the help of the hormones and nerves. They work together to help control the digestive process. So, signals we get from the brain. So when the acid should be opened, when the enzymes should be active, everything, the signal we get from our brain. And the hormones, it tells our body when to make digestive juices and send signals to our brain that are hungry or full. So we feel hungry, we say that I'm hungry, I need food. And when we eat, we say that I am full, my stomach is full, it's okay, my tummy is full, everything. So the signal we receive from the brain. And the pancreas also makes hormones that are important to digestion. Here, amazing thing that takes place is when we see or smell of food, our brain sends a signal that causes our salivary glands to make our mouth water to prepare ourselves to eat. Yes, we all agree this, no? When we see a poster, usually we get tempted. So our mouth will have the salivation because the brain is giving the signal that what we are seeing or we are smell the food, we feel hungry. So it is controlled by our hormones and the brain nerves, and the nerves send signals to control the action of our gut muscles to contract and relax to push food through our intestines. Hope you all understood the digestive system of the human beings. Thank you for listening, and happy learning.